Seven of Nine getting her own show is Star Trek's biggest unfulfilled wish. A Star Trek show starring Jerry Ryan as Seven of Nine is the franchise's biggest unfulfilled wish. Seven of Nine being in Star Trek Picard's first season seemed unusual at first, since Seven of Nine was from Star Trek Voyager and not Star Trek The Next Generation. While Seven's undeniable popularity as a Star Trek character helped pique interest in Star Trek Picard's first season, the original plan for Star Trek Picard explains why, out of all potential Star Trek characters, Seven of Nine joined Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, on a new adventure. After seeing Seven of Nine serving as a Starfleet commander on the USS Titan A in Star Trek Picard Season 3, the potential for a Star Trek show focused on Seven of Nine became much clearer. Picard Season 3's epilogue featured Captain Seven of Nine taking command of the Titan, now rechristened the USS Enterprise G, with Commander Raffi Musiker, Michelle Hurd, as Seven's first officer, Ensign Jack Crusher, Ed Spaliers, as special counselor to the captain, and Lieutenant Sidney LaForge, Ashley Sharp Chestnut, at the helm. Star Trek Legacy, as the spin-off would be known, seemed ready to take flight, but was not ordered as a series by Paramount+. Star Trek wanted a Seven of Nine show before Star Trek Picard came together. The first live-action Star Trek spin-off after Star Trek Discovery brought the franchise back to life could have featured Jerry Ryan's Seven of Nine as a lead character. In an interview with TrekMovie.com, Jonathan Del Arco, who first appeared as Hugh the Borg in Star Trek The Next Generation Season 5, Episode 23, I, Borg, talks about how the show that became Star Trek Picard would have centered on the Borg had Patrick Stewart not signed on to reprise his role as Jean-Luc Picard. Jonathan Del Arco, there was no Picard yet. It was a spin-off of Star Trek. Alex Kurtzman, James Duff, and I believe maybe one other writer was involved at the time, and James really wanted it to be a Borg spin-off. That's why he talked to Jerry and I and really started talking to them about it being this Borg storyline. And somewhere within that he discussed it with us maybe a year before it even happened. And they didn't have Patrick yet. So I think then they went and made the pitch to Patrick. But had Patrick not done it, some kind of show about the Borg would have happened. It would not have been Picard. It would have been a show about the Borg. According to Del Arco, plans for a new Star Trek show about the Borg with a late 24th century setting were already in motion as early as 2018. That means that a Seven of Nine show led by Jerry Ryan could have happened much earlier if the potential Borg show hadn't evolved into Star Trek Picard. Vestiges of that original plan are still present in the storyline for Star Trek Picard Season 1, with the involvement of the Artifact and the XBs, catching up with Del Arco's Hugh, and of course Jerry Ryan's return as Seven of Nine. We're still waiting for Seven of Nine's Star Trek Legacy show. Unfortunately, we're still waiting for Seven of Nine's Star Trek Legacy show. The epilogue of Star Trek Picard Season 3 perfectly teed up a spin-off following the adventures of the USS Enterprise G. The cast was in place, and a potential story arc was set up with the return of John Delancey's Q, putting Picard's son, Jack Crusher, on humanity's never-ending trial. Fan demand grew in the wake of Star Trek Picard's third season finally hitting all the right notes, and showrunner Terry Matalas encouraged viewers to make their desires for Star Trek Legacy known on social media. Fan demand launched Star Trek Strange New Worlds after Anson Mount's Captain Christopher Pike and Ethan Peck's Spock appeared in Star Trek Discovery Season 2, so theoretically, enough voices could get Star Trek Legacy off the ground. However, Paramount's budget concerns and other factors of the streaming business meant a swath of Star Trek cancellations, including Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Lower Decks, and the unceremonious disposal of Star Trek Prodigy. This signaled that a Star Trek Legacy green light is unlikely to shine anytime soon. With Terry Matalas signed on for Marvel's Vision and Netflix's Enemy Mine, the window for Legacy was pushed to 2026 or later if it happens at all. Why Seven of Nine deserves her own Star Trek show, the character Seven of Nine, played by Jerry Ryan, has become one of the most iconic figures in the Star Trek universe. Introduced in Star Trek Voyager during its fourth season, she immediately captured the imagination of fans and critics alike. Her journey from a Borg drone to an individual rediscovering her humanity offered a compelling narrative arc, exploring themes of identity, trauma, and the search for purpose. Despite her importance in Voyager and her reappearance in Star Trek Picard, 7 of 9 has never been given her own standalone series. This remains one of Star Trek's biggest unfulfilled wishes, a show centered around one of its most complex, beloved characters. A compelling backstory, Seven's backstory is rich with potential for further exploration. She was assimilated by the Borg at a young age, losing her identity as Annika Hansen and spending most of her life as part of the Borg collective. When she is freed by Captain Janeway and the crew of Voyager, she must not only reclaim her individuality, but also learn how to interact with a society that fears and misunderstands her. This tension between her Borg and human sides has always been at the core of her character, making her the perfect subject for deeper storytelling. Her journey is one of the most dynamic character arcs in Star Trek, offering themes that resonate beyond the science fiction genre. Her struggle to balance the cold, logical side of her Borg nature with her rediscovered humanity mirrors many real-world conflicts around personal identity and trauma. Watching her slowly evolve into someone capable of trust, compassion, and connection was one of Voyager's emotional highlights, but her story never felt truly finished. After Voyager ended, fans were left wondering what happened to 7. How did she continue to grow once back in the Alpha Quadrant? A series focused on 7 would finally provide answers to these lingering questions. 7's evolution in Star Trek Picard. In Star Trek Picard, 7's return felt like a long overdue continuation of her story. However, while her appearances were pivotal, the series wasn't focused solely on her. Instead, she played a supporting role, aiding Picard in his own quest while giving viewers a glimpse of what had become of her post-Voyager. We see a darker, more jaded 7, having joined the Fenris Rangers, a vigilante group dedicated to maintaining order in a chaotic galaxy. This new side of 7 showed her disillusionment with Starfleet and a universe that has continued to marginalize people like her. While Picard offered flashes of brilliance with 7's character, it still left fans hungry for more. The series hinted at untold stories of her time with the Fenris Rangers, her complex relationship with former Borg drones, and her ongoing struggle with her hybrid identity. This is a narrative goldmine, begging for further exploration in a standalone series. By centering a show around 7, the Star Trek franchise could dive into unexplored territory, addressing questions of post-war trauma, justice in a fractured galaxy, and the ethical dilemmas surrounding the Borg and their victims. Themes that could shape her series, a 7 of 9 series, would be a perfect vehicle for exploring some of the more mature, nuanced themes that Star Trek has occasionally touched on, but never fully delved into. For instance, her ongoing struggle with her Borg past could be a metaphor for trauma recovery, and how individuals can never fully escape the effects of their past. 7's journey could explore what it means to truly heal, both for herself and for others she encounters along the way, such as other former Borg drones or those left scarred by the Dominion War. Additionally, the moral and ethical questions surrounding the Borg remain one of Star Trek's most compelling yet underexplored themes. The Borg are one of the franchise's most terrifying antagonists, but they are also victims, captured beings with no choice but to serve the collective. 7's perspective as both former Borg and free individual could provide a fresh lens through which to examine these ethical dilemmas. How should the Federation treat the Borg? Is rehabilitation possible for those who have been assimilated? These questions could be central to a 7 of 9 series.